Hi, Kashmira.
Let us start with the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom.
O hidden light, vibrant in every atom.
O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
May each who feels himself as one with thee.
May each who feels himself as one with thee
know he is also one with every other.
know he is also one with every other.
Let us meditate for 1 minute. Thank you. Today our speaker is Sister Aban Patel from Bombay. She is the president of Shanti Lodge, Bombay. She was introduced last week, and her study and lecture on book T.S. Manuel Karma. Today is second part. So I welcome you, sister, to start your today's program.
Thank you, Brother Pradeep. And I welcome all on my talk, part second, volume 4, written by Dr. Besant. But before I start my talk, I would like to say my Avastha Mantravani. Ayya Yasa Nemangaha, Ustano Jasto Rafedraya, Mainayush Mazda Pauravim, Spekayasha Visungashotana, Vangehusham Manangoya, Kashne Visha Geuracha Urvane. Meaning, to him I pray with humble, grateful heart and hands uplifted for the perfect bliss. O Mazda's Holy Spirit, first I pray through Asha. True knowledge I gain, and then Bahumanos, loving wisdom too, and thus bring solace to the soul of earth and to the world. Amen. I will continue from where I left. Can you all hear? Yeah. I will continue from where I had left last Sunday. We had seen about certain aspects of karma that is the invariability of law, planes of nature, the generation of thoughts, the activity of thought forms. We have done in detail about thought forms because thoughts create everything good or bad, and accordingly we act. So there was a lot of importance given on thought forms. But now we will see the making of karma in principle and also in detail, the working out of karma. Once we make the karma, to work them out and facing karmic results. Having realized the relations between man and the elemental kingdom, the molding of the mind, we are in a position to at least partially understand something of the generation and working out of karma during a single life period. Now, what is this life period? By life period, it means a little cycle of human existence with its physical, astral, and devachanic experience, including its return back to the threshold of the physical world, that is rebirth. So these are the 4 stages of a cycle. The 4 distinct stages through which the soul passes in order to complete its cycle. These stages are retrodden and revisited over and over again during the journey of the eternal pilgrim through present humanity, and however much the experiences in each such period may vary, both as to quantity and quality. The period will include these 4 stages for the average human being and others. These 4 stages, physical, astral, devachanic, and again coming back to the birth for the human beings and none others. It is important to realize that the soul resides out of the physical body for far more prolonged period than in it. And the working of the karmic law will be not properly understood unless the activity of the soul in the non-physical condition is to be studied. That means in Devachari. Let us recall the master pointing out that the life out of body is the real one. The Vedantis acknowledge 2 kinds of conscious existence: the terrestrial, that is earthly, and the spiritual, point only to the latter, that is spiritual as an undoubted actuality. As to the terrestrial life, owing to its stability and shortness, it is nothing but an illusion of our senses, what we call in Indian language Maya. So whatever is in the physical life, on the terrestrial, that is earthly life, is illusion, it is Maya. The real life is in Devachanik for the soul. Our life in spiritual spheres must be thought an actuality because it is there. Their lives are endless, never changing, immortal. Sutra, this is why we call the posthumous life the only reality, and the terrestrial one, including the personality itself, imaginary and illusory. During the earth life, the activity of the soul is most directly manifested in the creation of the thought form. But in order to follow with any approach to exactness the working of we must now analyze further the term thought forms. The soul working as one creates a mental image, the primary thought form. This mental image remains attached to its creator part of the content of his consciousness. It is a living, vibrating form of matter, thought but not spoken, conceived but not yet known. It forms the part of the content of the consciousness of its creator, part of its inseparable property. He carries with him during his earthly life, carries it with him through the gateway of death, carries with him in the regions beyond death, and if passes further beyond, he leaves behind denser matter built into it, carrying only essential form. When, on his return to the grosser region that is rebirth, the matter of that plane is again built into mental matrix and the appropriate denser form is produced. This mental image may remain sleeping for long periods, but it may be reawakened and revivified every fresh impulse from its creator progeny. I'll give you a small example for this. Now, in this life, if somebody is very fond of drawing and painting, he wants to do whatever, but he's unable to do for various reasons. Maybe he did not get a chance, or maybe the finances did not approve. And so the desire remains with him along with art, along with the specific wish. And now, when he takes rebirth, at that time, in the next rebirth, he gets the opportunity to paint and draw. And who knows, he may become the great Ravi Raja Verma or Pablo Picasso. So this is inherent thing that comes out, if not in this life, it may be carried on in the next life. It evolves according to definite laws, and the aggregation of these mental images makes the character, the outer mirror inner. Many materials may enter into the making of these mental images by the creative powers of the soul. It may be stimulated into activity by desire, by calm, and may shape the according to the prompting of passion or appetite. Here it is the art. It may be self-motivated to noble ideal and mold the image accordingly. It may be led by intellectual concepts and from the image thereafter, but lofty or base, intellectual or passional, serviceable or mischievous, divine or bestial, it is always in man a mental image, product of the creator's soul, and on its existence, individual karma depends. Without this mental image, there can be no individual karma linking life period to life. The manasic quality must be present to afford the permanent element in which individual karma can be inherent. The non-presence of manas in the mineral, vegetable, animal kingdom, therefore, does not create individual karma stretching through death to birth. They have group karmas. They don't have individual karmas. The vibrations of the mental images do not only pass downwards to the lower astral plane, but they pass upwards also to the spiritual plane above it. And as the vibrations denser form on the plane, so do they generate a far subtle form on the higher plane. All these forms make their respective impressions, which to us seem formed, but to lofty spiritual intelligence, the formed images of all happenings. And these Akashic images, as we call them, abide forevermore and are the karmic records, the book of the Lipika that may be read by any who possesses the open eye of adapt. Akashic records are the astral lights on mental plane. They are indestructible tablets of astral light, recording all the past, present, and future thoughts, words, and action of a man on earth. The Lipika comes from the Hindi word lipi, writing. He scribes the divine beings. Clairvoyant can see these Akash gods like a fleeting, living picture of any page of these records. Thus, for our clumsy, earthbound intelligences, in miserably inadequate language, we may figure forth the way in which responsibility is seen. So also seen at a glance by the great lords of karma, the administrators of karmic law, full responsibility of the soul for the mental image it creates. Now, making of karma. The soul in man, the ego, the maker of karma, must be recognized as a living entity, a living individual who increases wisdom in mental stature as he treads the path of his everlasting evolution. And the fundamental identity of the higher and lower manas must be constantly kept in mind. The higher manas is manas working on the spiritual plane, is fully conscious of its own past, and the lower manas is working on the psychic or astral plane, is fully conscious of its own and is veiled, and it is veiled in astral matter. All its activities intermingle with by the desire nature and is aware only a small portion of the total manasic consciousness. But however, is sometimes regarded wrongly as supernatural. But it is, after all, the voice of God and is for them the only manifestation of the higher on the psychic plane. But we must realize that the lower manas is one with the higher. As the ray of a sun, RAY ray, is one with the sun manas shines ever in the heaven of spiritual plane. The ray manas penetrates the psychic plane. They should be regarded as one. The ego is the growing entity and increasing quantity. The ray sent down is like a hand plunged into water to collect some object and then withdrawn, holding the object in its hold. The increase in the ego depends on the value of the objects gathered in the outstretched hand. We must understand that the ego that makes the karma reaps the karma. A farmer who has sowed the seeds gathers the harvest, though the clothes he had worn while sowing the seeds would worn out by the time he reaps the harvest, if he has worn the same clothes. Similarly, and reaps the harvest in new set of clothes. But if he is he only who had sown the seeds, it is he who has sown the seeds, and is he alone who reaps the harvest. Now, if the seeds sown were of poor quality, his harvest too will be poor. And so goes with the humanity. In the early stages of ego's growth, his progress will be slow, but he led hither and thither by desire, following attractions on the physical plane. The mental images it generates will be mostly of the passional class. Hence, the mental images will be violent and short-lived, rather than strong and far-reaching. Steady, sustained thought will form clearly defined mental images and correspondingly strong, enduring astro-mental images. These images will become dominating influence in the mental life, and the energies of the soul will be largely directed by it. Let us now see the making of karma by the mental image. During man's life, he forms innumerable mental images. Others, some are strong, clear, continually reinforced by repeated mental pulses. Others are weak, vague, just form and then as forsaken by the mind. At death, the soul finds itself possessed by myriad these mental images, and they vary in character as well as in strength. Some are of spiritual aspirations, longing to be of service, going after knowledge, vows of self-dedication to the higher life. Some are pure intellectual, clear gems of thought, result of deep study. Some are passionate, breathing love, compassion, tenderness, devotion, anger, ambition, pride, greed. Some are from bodily appetites, stimulated by uncurbed desire, and represent thoughts of gluttony, drunkenness, and sensibility. Sorry. Each soul has its own consciousness, crowded with these messages, outcome of its mental life. All mental images remain among the presence of the soul. Not one is lacking. The soul carries with it all these mental images when it passes through death into this astral world. The Kamalo, or place of desire, is divided in many stratas, as it were. And the soul, just after death, is loaded with its complete body desire, or Kamarupa, and all the messages formed by Kama Manas that are of gross and animal nature are powerful on the lowest levels of his astral body. A poorly developed soul will dwell on these images, act them out, thus preparing itself to repeat them again physically in next life. A man who has dwelt on sensual thoughts and made such mental images will not only be drawn to earth scenes connected with sensual gratification, but will constantly be repeating them as actions in his mind, and so setting up his nature stronger and stronger in path towards the future of similar offense. We can take the example of a drunkard. He will go on thinking about his drinks and all that, and so they are so much impressed in the mind that he carries birth after birth instead of improving himself. As the soul rises from the lower levels to the higher, the mental images from the materials of the levels lose these elements, thus become latent in consciousness, as Madame Blavatsky used to call privations of matter, capable of existing, but out of material manifestations. The Kamarupic vesture is purified of its grosser elements as the lower ego is drawn upwards or inwards towards the Devachani. The mental images formed from the passions and appetites are subject to re-manifested by the ego on its return to earth life. As the writer of Astral Plane says, the Lipika, the great karmic deities of the cosmos, weigh the deeds of each personality when the final separation of its principles takes place in Karka, and give, as it were, the mold of the etheric exactly suitable to its karma for the man's next birth. So we have to be sure that whatever we do, it has to be in the good character. Free from these lower elements, the soul passes on to the Devachan, where it spends a time proportionate to the wealth or property of mental images pure to be carried into that region. The Devachanic life, one of assimilation. The experiences collected on earth have to be worked into the texture of the soul, and it is by these that the ego grows. That is why Devachanic life is much longer than what physical life is. Its development depends on the number of variety of mental images it has formed. During its earth life, it transmuted into their appropriate and more pertinent types. For instance, a man has formed many mental images out of aspirations for knowledge and efforts to understand subtle and lofty reasonings. In his Devachan, he works on all these mental images and evolves them into capacity so that his soul returns to earth higher mental apparatus than it before possessed, with much intellectual powers, able to achieve tasks for which before it was inadequate. This is the transformation of the mental images, which takes place only in the Devachanic regions. By this transformation, they cease to be mental images created and worked on by soul and become powers of the soul. Now, no mental images. The soul is empowered by the good images that was created and becomes of the soul and part of his nature. If the mental image was formed out of desire to do beneficent actions, it would give rise to the mental performance of these actions in the same law applies to the mental images formed out of low, baser desires, though they never cross Devachan. Usually Devachan, all the good things come. The devilish, bad desires do not reach Devachan. It is from the mental images of experience, and more especially from those which tell how suffering has been for ignorance of law, that conscience is born and developed. Now, once the soul has accepted all the goodness, the birth of conscience takes place in our soul. It is from the mental images of experience, and more especially from those which tell how suffering has been caused by ignorance of law, that conscience is born and is. The soul during its successive earth lives is constantly led by desire to rush headlong after some attractive object. In its pursuit, it dashes itself against law and falls, bruised and bleeding. At the present stage of evolution, all souls have passed through sufficient experiences to recognize the broad outlines of right and wrong. that is of harmony with divine nature and or of course discord. And on these main questions of ethics, a wide and long experience enables the soul to clearly and definitely. Here its will to obey sets in. Because obey, in the first talk I had already said, obedience to the nature is good, otherwise we suffer. So here will to obey it in line with the divine nature on the higher purpose. The suffering will teach and its sorrowful experiences will be worked into conscience to preserve it from similar pain in the future. So we can say experiences become wisdom. Experiences become wisdom. And painful experiences, which are good ones, it gives you pain, become conscience. So painful experiences make conscience. Now the out of karma. We have created, but now we have to see that all these karmas are worked out. Otherwise, 80 lakh, 84 lakh chera will have to go on coming, going, rebirth. When the soul has lived out its devachanic life and has assimilated all that it can of the material gathering during its last period on earth, it begins to be again towards earth. There is attraction to come towards earth by the soul. By what? By links of desire. It is the desire that brings, because it is bound. By the links of desire that bind it to existence. The last stage of its life period now is before it. Now this is the last stage because the soul has gone from physical to astral, from astral to devachani. And I have in detail what is done in devachan. And now, because the desires are so strong, even on the earth life, that the soul tries to finish its journey in the fourth stage. So here it is said, the last stage of its life period now lies before it. Stage during which it reclothes itself for an experience of earthly life. The soul steps over the threshold of the devachan into what has been called the plane of reincarnation. So rebirth or reincarnation is one and the same thing. So the soul steps over the threshold of devachan into what has been called the plane of reincarnation, bringing with it a result, small or great, of its devachani. Whatever work has been done in devachan, the soul will bring along with it in the rebirth. But a young soul, it will have gained but little, as the progress in the early stages of the soul evolution is slow. But as faculties develop, growth quickens at an ever increasing rate, and the soul that enters the deva with large store of material comes out with a large increase of faculty worked out under the general laws. Passing on to the astral plane on its earthward journey. Naturally, from devachan, it will first go to the mental and then to the astral and then to the physical. So passing on to the astral plane on its earthward journey, it puts itself anew in the body of desire. The first thing out of its past karma. The mental images formed during the past from the materials by the desired nature that had become latent in consciousness, what HPB used to call privations of matter, meaning depriving of matter, capable of existing but out of material manifestations. now thrown outward by the soul and immediately attract to themselves from the matter of the astral plane and become the appetites, passion, and lower emotions of ego's desire body. For his new incarnation, when this work is accomplished, the ego stands in the karmic vesture he has prepared for himself, ready to be clothed upon to receive from the hands of the aids of the great lords of karma, the etheric double built for him according to the elements he himself provided, after which shall be shaped his physical body. So whatever he has provided in the previous births, in the Devachanik place, it has been reclothed in the when he takes rebirth, after which shaped in his soul according to the elements he has himself provided, after which shall be shaped his physical body, the house which he must inhabit during his coming physical life. Hence, the man is in very truth self-created, responsible in the fullest sense of the word for all that he is. The man is now ready to tread the path marked out by the causes he himself has set going. Something more than his individual and personal nature seems here to be needed. How is the field to be provided for its energies? Secret, HPB says in Secret Doctrine, these great ones are spoken of as the Lipika. They are the spirits of the universe. They belong to the most occult portion of cosmogenesis. They keep the astral records filled with Akashic images of each one, mind well, Akashic records. One thing is certain, that Lipika are connected with Kam, they being its direct recorders. Unquote. They are connected to the destiny of every man and the birth of every child, suited the expression of the mental and passional faculties evolved by the ego that is to dwell therein. We know thoughts build character. Now let us realize that actions make empowerment. By his
Hello?
Hello.
Is gone, sir?
She is out of connection.
Can't hear, Brother Taran.
I think Abanji has lost the connection. She will be back.
Okay, okay, we'll hold on.
Yes.
Sorry, the networking problem.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, you start.
Yeah, I'm starting now. So we all know that build character. Now let us realize that actions make environment. By his actions, I'll give you an example. By his actions, man affects his neighbors on the physical plane. He spreads happiness around him, or he causes distress, increasing or diminishing the sum of human welfare. This increase or diminishing of happiness may be due to very different motives, good, bad, or mixed. A man may do an act of benevolence just to give health, healing, and happiness to his fellow creatures. So, what does he do? Builds a hospital so that the lower strata of society can get the benefit of healthcare free of charge or with minimal money. On seeing them getting cured or healed, he gets happiness and thanks Almighty for giving him this opportunity. Now, there is another man who does the same act of building a hospital, but he wants his name to be prominently played, and he desires that great honor be bestowed upon him by the local authorities for the money he donated for the hospital. Now, there is a third man who too does the same act of giving a ready-made hospital in his neighborhood. Mixed motives, partly to help the patients and their suffering, and also to get his name displayed for the benevolent act he did. Although the act is same, but the motives of each are different. Hence, the karma they have created will have different effect in their next incarnation, because the law knows and accordingly this will be done. You can understand what is different. The first man is pure in his motives. The second man is absolutely ingrained in his motives. The third man is both mixture. So accordingly, he will get the benefit as well as problems. Service rendered to the full measure of opportunity in one life will produce as effect enlarged opportunities of service in the. Thus, one who in very limited sphere helped each who came in the way would in a future life be born into a position where opening or giving effects help were many and far-reaching. But those, in spite of having abundant knowledge and wealth and good health, do nothing for his family, that is, wasted the opportunities. Hence, these wasted opportunities will reappear transmuted as limitations, as misfortunes in the environment. For example, the body of the etheric double of the person who had wasted the opportunities, though given, will be built defectively, thus having defective physique. So, some way or the other, karma does. Congenial defects result from defective etheric double, and lifelong penance for serious rebellions against law or for injuries inflicted upon others. All such arise from the working of the lords of karma and are physical manifestations of the deformities created by the error of the ego, by his excess and defects in the world of the etheric double made by them. So again, from their just administration of the law, the tendency to reproduce a family disease, suitable configuration of the etheric double, and the direction of it to a family in which a given disease is hereditary and which affords continuous plasm suitable to the development of the appropriate germs. So many a times, the children born with such defects or the entire family, from the genes you get diabetes and all that. So these are the results of the wasted opportunities in the previous births. Not one birth, in many births. On the other hand, see this, how law of nature, law of karma works. On the other hand, for development of artistic faculties, to take another type of quality, will be answered by the lords of karma by providing the mold for the etheric double, after which a delicate nervous system can be physically built, and often by guiding of it to family in whose members the special faculty developed by the ego has found expression. Sometimes for many generations, for expression of such a faculty as that of music, for instance, a peculiar body is needed, a delicacy of physical ear and of physical touch, and to such delicacy, an appropriate physical heredity would be most conducive. There is no other example more mentioned here than Lata Mangeshkar's family. She herself had a beautiful voice. ऐसा बोलता है कि गले में कोयल ही बिठा दिया था. And not only she, her entire family. So what good deed she must have done to take birth in this particular family and give to the world the maximum happiness through her voice. So good and bad, both the examples will give us an idea how law of karma works. The rendering of service to man collectively, as by some noble book or speech, the spreading of elevating ideas is again a claim upon the law, scrupulously discharged by its mighty agents. Such help given comes back as help bestowed on the giver, as mental and spiritual assistance, which is by right. Now, facing results. Sometimes people feel on first recognizing of karma that if all be the work out of law, we are helpless slaves of destiny. If everything is going to be law according to the law, what is our destiny? What can we do? Where is our free will? This is the question many people have asked. Sometimes people feel on first recognizing of karma that if all be the working of out of law, they are helpless, slaves of destiny. Before considering how the law may be utilized for the control of destiny, let us see a typical case and see how necessity and free will are both at work and work in harmony. A man comes into this world with certain inborn mental faculties who is an average type and has characteristics, some good, some bad, with etheric double and physical body well formed. And healthy. He carries on in his life with day-to-day routine, but with no effort to master or command any heights in his career. Le bhagu, chalta hai, hota hai, that type of attitude. He at times comes to passionate temptations also, but somehow or the other comes out of it unharmed. In short, he makes no effort to improve his financial or social status, maybe lethargy or no inclination to improve. He's bound with mistaken choices by his foolish yieldings. He's bound by his forgotten desires and enchained by his earlier errors. Yet, he is not bound in this birth. He is independent entity. He can do what he wanted to, but he did not. It is he who has made his past that imprisons present. With his work, he can create future of liberty. If he works hard, the fetters break, and he will be liberated to pursue what he wants. With some effort, he could come out of his lethargy and expect to get a better life. He cannot blame anyone but himself. And instead of brooding over what has happened, if he picks up the challenges and changes his thinking, his heart towards improvement, his tomorrow will be free for him. What was darkness? Come a ray of light, and the light is shining on him. So we must not go on brooding, अरे क्या होगा क्या, अरे सब कुछ होगा, थोड़ा मेहनत करो, थोड़ा interest लो. The law seemed to be fetters has become wings, and by it he can rise to wings of which without it he could only dream. So now we can say that man can make his own destiny. With regard to the destiny, I quote from the book An Abridgment of Secret Doctrine of Madame Blavatsky, which is as under. I quote, those who believe in karma have to believe in destiny, which from birth to death, every man is weaving thread by thread around himself as a spider does his cobweb. And this destiny is guided either by the heavenly voice outside of us or by our own more intimate astral inner man, who is but too often the genius of the embodied entity called man. It is not therefore karma that rewards or punishes. It is we who reward or punish ourselves according to whatever we work with thought and along with nature, abiding by the laws on which harmony deals or break them, unquote. And here I end my talk. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you, Abanji. Now I request the members who are available here, they can share or ask any question they like.
There seems to be no questions.
It seems that everybody understood you. Yes.
शिंदे साहब आपका क्या
Shinde sir will add
बोलना है?
something. Shinde sir will add something. Yes, sir.
No, Aban has explained very nicely,
Okay.
and she has nourished our soul in the morning. I must congratulate for her inspiring talk on the karma. Really, karma is action. So right action, she has pointed to all of us. For right action, we must understand the position of our soul and body. Without the balance between soul and body, we can't be in a right mood. So action is inevitable, as she quoted Bhagavad Gita. And man is both spiritual and animal. So he is subjected to the process of changing moods. He is always changing his moods. There has to be balance of good and bad moods. So how to achieve this balance is the question. That is our karma. We have our karma is our action, and our action must be right action, and that right action must be balanced between our head and heart. Heart, you can, it is only by balance you can nourish your soul. So keep masters alive in your heart. That is what it is instructed. So to bring the balance between heart and head, what is needed? We must keep our subject of meditation alive in our heart. Then there will be balance between head and heart. Second action, we must bring balance between mind and emotions. For this, we are asked to keep the teachings, a good teachings of theosophy, ancient wisdom. The teachings must be in our mind. Then we can bring mind and emotion balance. And finally, we must bring balance between intellect and instinct. So for this, keep close to the ideals, great ideals. For example, universal brotherhood is a great ideal. And your intellect must be always with this ideal. Then you can bring balance between intellect and instinct. Because man is subjected to such kind of imbalance always. So he has to bring balance between head and heart, mind and emotion, intellect and instinct. Then only he can feed his soul. That is our action. That is our karma. When we study about the karma, we must have this kind of understanding. In action, in action. Abaji, in action, in action. In action, in action. Akarma, karma. Karma in akarma. Akarma, karma. So this is very interesting when we deal with the karma. I must thank Aban, very nicely she has explained, and I also thank Pradeep ji for giving me this few minutes to share something, because we have to be active, but there has to be right action, and this topic like karma, it is inevitable. We are doing karma, no alternative. Only thing, we have to bring right balance. That's what I think, to add some few words in this. If anything is to be
Thank you.
done, that is my thought. So please excuse me and bear me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Madhavan, you have to say something?
Well, thank you, Aban. And it really explains that how over our life of 4 stages of karma starts working and what opportunity
Power on.
all has
Bluetooth mode.
further when he's reborn. He has certain pluses and minuses, and at the same time, he has an opportunity to make things very positive and beneficial to humanity. Thank you, Aban. The talk gives us an opportunity to contemplate over it and be conscious about our thoughts